There we go. My name is Carlos Walker. This is Forward Progress. And today on Forward Progress, I have Mr. Jose A. Perez, Angel Perez with me. If you will, share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you so much. First of all, I appreciate you being inviting me to your show, inviting me to this platform. I love the name Forward Progress. Uh, I love it. Um, and yeah, so I'm a right now I work as a program strategist for the Children's Defense Fund New York. But I'm also an artist, poet, author, actor. I consider myself a multidisciplinary artist, and community activist, right? Father, um, um, all of those things. Abolitionist. I'm more of an abolitionist than a reformist. Some of these things don't need to change; they need to just be eradicated. We need to just get rid of things, right? That's just not working. Particularly the child welfare system for me. The child welfare system as it is doesn't work. So I'm big on abolishing the child welfare system as it is and creating something new for our children. Because the child welfare system has the worst possible outcomes for the children that they care about. And I say that because my own lived experience, right? I was 3 years old. I was a foster care child from the ages of 3 years old to 16. And all of the statistics that you will say that will happen to a child in foster care, especially someone like myself who was placed in more than 3 to 4 foster homes. I was placed in 11. And all those outcomes that they said would happen happened. Right? I landed in prison. I landed in juvenile justice detention centers, institutions, group homes, congregate care settings, all of these things in which never really did anything for me, never really, helped me. And as a result, I end up being incarcerated at 16 years old for murder in the second degree and robbery in the first degree, and end up being sentenced to 20 years to life, which is a life term in prison at a very young age. Um, but before that, I was a kid. I was a little kid who had dreams and hopes and all of the things. It shouldn't be a reason for me. It's like it shouldn't be a reason for a child to look up at the sky or look up at God and ask for a family. Like that shouldn't be a prayer for a child, man. Like a child coming into this world, that it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be like that, right? But it is. It's like that across our country, especially in New York State. And for me, I was a 3-year-old boy hoping that my mom would come and save me, that my father would come and save me, but none of them ever came to save me. My father won custody of me when I was a kid, when I was like about 8 years old. But then he showed how abusive that he is and was used to whoop my ass every chance he got. And then gave me away to another family because he didn't want to put me back in the foster care system. And then I ended up back in the foster care system at the age of like 10. So kind of grew up like everywhere in New York City as a foster care kid, just going from home to home, place to place, feeling these feelings of worthlessness and not being wanted. And then also navigating school. I was always good at school. That was my sanctuary from all the bullshit that was happening in my households. So when anger was part of one of the emotions that came out when I started to get older, because of my situation being in a foster care, in a foster care home, and not being able to express myself as I wanted. I started to turn to the streets. The streets really enjoyed me being angry, right? Like, so like, I became gang involved in my neighborhood in Queens. I consider myself from Queens, even though I grew up all around the boroughs. I grew up I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in Harlem. I lived in the Lower East Side. I lived in. But for the most part, I lived in the Bronx. But for the most part, I lived in Queens for the vast majority of my life and my young life. And that's where I really started to engage in criminal activity, robbing people every day, and just being skipping school, being silly, being what a typical angry little kid would do in an urban setting, right?
I was just about to say hurt people. There's a saying that
Right.
says hurt people hurt people.
Hurt people,
Uh,
hurt people.
you grew up in a with a lot of hurt from the
Right.
age of 3 to 10. I mean, to this time that you was started doing the criminal activity. A lot of
Right.
pain, wanting your family to be there, but also
Right.
being transferred from one family to the next family. This is something that I don't know about personally, but hearing the story, I can I can visualize what a child is going through at the same
Right.
time.
Right.
So, as you were saying, you in the streets robbing, doing. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. So yeah, I was in the streets doing a lot of crazy stuff in there, and I end up me and a few of my friends end up trying to rob this establishment, and a brawl broke out where I end up shooting and killing someone, and end up being locked up for the rest of my life. Well, for what I thought would be the rest of my life. Um, because 16-year-old kid getting sentenced to 20 years to life. I didn't think there was going to be an end to that. The judge was trying to put my lights out. He really wanted to give me 75 years. He was adamant about it. Offered it to me as a cop out. Like I was going to take 75 years, which is ridiculous. But spent some time on Rikers Island. But the 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 back the backdrop to that story, after while I was fighting my case and stuff like that, something was going on in my life that was was about to prepare me to do the rest of this time,
Mm.
unbeknownst to me. I didn't know that this was happening for my own benefit, but you know, I was able to kind of like focus and continue doing it. And what I'm talking about is poetry.
Give me 1 second before you jump into that. When you got sentenced, what was running through your mind? Because you're a 16-year-old and you kind of answered, but I want a little bit more depth. I deal with the psychological part
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
when people get locked up because there's a
No,
lot of
that's
thoughts.
important.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts to run through your mind. I'm 16.
Yeah.
Life looked like it's over.
Life for me was over at that time. And I, to be quite honest, I wanted to kill myself.
Mm.
Like I didn't want to live. I didn't think that living was gonna be living.
Mm.
You know, I imagined things were gonna be the same way how it was on Rikers Island, and I was thinking I can't live the rest of my life this way.
So Rikers was rough back then.
Rikers Island was rough. I was getting beat up all the time. Like people were trying to like take my food, take my commissary, make me pay rent, take my phone calls. Like I wasn't having none of that. I wasn't gonna let nobody take nothing from me. So as soon as somebody was coming up to me with that nonsense, I had to fight. And I wasn't just fighting one dude, two dudes. I had to fight whole houses, whole units. They was jumping on me with scrub brushes and all that. And then the COs come and spray everybody. They don't care who started what. They pepper spraying everybody. You know, so I was getting pepper sprayed all the time because the turtles, they call them the turtles, the
Mm-hmm.
police. They put these
The whole gear on.
gear on, and they call them turtles when they coming through. Like turtles spray me mad times with pepper spray on Rikers Island. Like it was so many things that was going on that by the time I got sentenced, I just couldn't believe that I can do the bid. I didn't believe that I can do 20 years. I attempted suicide a few times, which put me in the mental observation unit in on Rikers Island. And that's when I met some mental health counselors that started helping me out. But before that, my mother was also locked up on Rikers Island. So while I was on Rikers Island at 16 years old, my mother was on Rikers Island doing a bid herself. So she was in the woman's side of the prison, and I was on the adolescent side. I was a C-74, and she was in Rosie's. And she started when she found out I was locked up. She started writing me letters, and then she started writing me love letters. Like she would tell me how much she loves me and how much I'm important to her and the world, and how don't worry, I'm gonna be great. All of these things. She used to send me write me poems, dedicate poems to me, and then she would ask me, "Could you write me a poem back? Write me a poem back. Write me about what you're going through."
This the setup you talking about.
Right. And I started doing it. I started writing her back, started writing her poems back. Then I started to kind of like emulate her style and write poems in her style. And then I was like, nah, I want my own style, because I was a little fake rapper. So I always used to think like, you can't be biting on nobody. You gotta do your own thing. You gotta do your own style. You gotta figure it out. So I tried to like mix and match stuff and try to do things. Then I started reading other poets, because the mental health counselors saw me on the bed one day on my bunk writing my mom. And she was like, "What are you doing?" A woman by the name of Robin. She asked me, "What am I doing?" And I said, "I'm writing a poem to my mother." And she was like, "Oh wow, can I read it?" And I thought about it. I was like, "You can read it." She read it, and then she came up with this idea to have me come down to her office and help her start a poetry group. That if I could find other kids in the unit to come down, that she would have coffee and donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, Munchkin Donuts, and we could smoke our cigarettes down there. So I was like, word? It's like, word, we could do this? So I was like, bet. I went back to the unit, and nobody was interested in doing this shit with me except for one person.
Just all you need is one.
My boy Tyson was the only one. But she said we need more people. We can't just have two people there. We need more so she could justify having the room and shit. Man, I went on my nonsense and went up there. I said, "Y'all motherfuckers is gonna come down here. Y'all coming down to this poetry joint, and that's it. And that's it. I don't know how to write. I don't care if you don't know. I'm gonna write the poems. Me and Tyson gonna write the poems." And we started writing poetry for folks and bringing them down to the poetry workshop so that we can do our thing. And they used to recite our poems. Mostly my poems, because I used to be the one only writing. But they'll read my poems acting like if it's theirs, and then we'll read our poems and stuff like that. Up until the point where one of them, I came to him with the poem to give to him, and he was like, "No, I don't want your poem this time. I want to write my own." So now everybody's now writing their own poems now. Like, I don't got to write no. But I kind of like did that reverse peer pressure where I was threatening these dudes. Like, if you don't come, you up. That's it. I was threatening them, but they got something positive out of it, And from there, like Robin and everything, they used to like the staff used to try to show me like, did you see what you just did? Like, you see how much influence you have? You can be using this influence for positive things, you can, but it still wasn't clicking in my head. Like, I didn't want to do that. I want to go home. Like, I don't want to be a positive influence on nobody. I want people to be a positive influence in my life, And I was, of course, that came from immaturity, because I was 16, 17 years old at the time, Then I got sentenced, and then I'm like still wanting to kill myself. I still had those thoughts, and I used to write about it too.
Mm.
But then, like when I got sentenced, though, within that month, because when you get sentenced on Rikers Island, you have like this grace period between the time that you get sentenced when you go back to Rikers Island, and then you don't never know when, but within a month they're gonna ship you up north so you can
Mm-hmm.
finish out your bid, right? So, but between that time, I got this like sense to live. Like I didn't want to kill myself anymore. Like I was thinking to myself, you know, I gotta do this. I have to do this. Like, you know, like I gotta do it, you know. And part of it was ego too, because it was like, you know what, motherfuckers is gonna know my name, they're gonna respect me. You know, I get through this shit, you know. So it was a part of that. There was that. But then when I went up, when my first day up north, when the counselor asked me, have you ever thought about killing yourself? I was like, yeah, I thought about killing myself, but I don't want to die now. Like, you know, like, so they like, what do you think you're going to be able to do in the next 20 years? I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do for the next 20 years. You know, at the time I already had my GED, and
Okay.
people were saying to me, yo, you should get an industry job, which is a core craft industry job, slave wages and all that stuff or whatever. They pay the most in prisons. They pay you 25 cents an hour,
Mm-hmm.
38 to 38 cents an hour. So that's basically the most you can get in the prison. So they were like, you got your GED, you young, go get one of them jobs, you know? So I was thinking about that. But since I told this counselor that I wanted to kill myself, she put me in a strip cell
Mm.
for my first week up north. So my first week up north was me being butt naked
By
inside a
yourself.
with no mattress, by myself, no mattress. Well, it was a mattress, but it was no sheets. No sheets on a pillow, no pillowcase, no nothing in my cell. Me, naked, a pillowcase and a mattress. That's it. You know, and whenever I needed something, I would have to like, you know, tell an officer and they'll give it to me. And I have to give it back at a certain like within a certain amount of time. You know, so from that, I turned to poetry, man, and I wrote a poem. I wrote a poem in that cell, a sense of mind, because I didn't want to lose my mind. I was like, oh, whatever happens, I just don't want to lose my mind. They trying to break me right now, and I had this sense that they trying to break me. They got me butt naked in the cell. Like they not trying they trying to do me dirty. Like I can't do this bid this way, you know. But I'm not gonna break. You know, I'm not like I want it to be strong for myself and for a legacy. Because in my mind, I was thinking I'm gonna have a legacy one day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I want to be known as the person who survived this shit, you know. And from that, man, I went up north. I went to Clinton Correctional Facility, which is one of the most dangerous facilities in the country, if not the state. So I started to like, you know, see how real it is up north. Like, you know, people getting stabbed up left and right. My first day in the yard, somebody got fucking stabbed in the eye and dude beat him up. It was like some real crazy shit that I learned that I seen when I was up north. But the great thing about me is that I was also a part of the Nation of Gods and Earths.
Okay.
So my attribute was I build powerful reality a lot, and people call me powerful for short. So when they started seeing how young I was, the guards was like, "Yo, nah, you got to go to the general library. You got to go. You got to study your lessons. You got to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know who you are. You know, and your origin in this world. You know, and you got to start. You got to start doing things like that. So I started going to general library and studying things up on like I started studying on slavery and the Caribbean and the indoctrination 64-year indoctrination periods. And, you know, all of these things. I started reading books like African Origin of Civilization. Started reading these meditation books. This, you know, I was just reading all kind of stuff, studying Buddhism, studying Christianity, reading the Bible, reading the Quran, like just doing all kinds of stuff that I never imagined myself doing. But doing it from a place of like, wanting to be bigger, wanting to,
On your legacy.
right, wanting to impress people by what I knew,
Mm-hmm.
and also wanting to be respected, because people with knowledge, people that knew how to talk was respected, highly respected, like people you ain't gonna talk to them any kind of way. So that's what I started doing, man. And the brothers, instead of giving me a knife, man, they gave me a book, and they started, really making sure I was staying out of trouble. If they knew some shit was about to pop off in the yard, they'll let me know so I don't be around, like it was a lot of those things, even though, you know, still sometimes, you had to like handle your business and stuff like that. But for me, I didn't have to do that a lot. I only had to, I think I put my hands on somebody probably like once or like twice, and I didn't get caught for it. It was just something that, I had to do. But at the same time, it was never something that was always asked of me. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of young people go up north and they don't get that privilege.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put in work
Mm-hmm.
because you gang involved. You running with these boys, they not playing around. So you got to show that you
Mm-hmm.
out that. So a lot of young people was falling victim to that. But me, I got the opportunity to be a leader. They put me in leadership position without me even knowing how to be a leader. Inmate organizations, specifically the Lifers and Long Termers organization, which was created by Eddie Ellis and Larry Lukeman White. These are legends in the state, who are about change. And one of the things that I learned from them was anybody who gets locked up, you need to live by two principles. The first principle is to free yourself as quickly as possible. That means that any kind of activity or any person or anything that will stop you from going home, you got to leave that alone. You got to, anything that impede yourself from going home, you got to get rid of that. Because if not, you ain't being true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not being true to yourself or the people that you love, and you're not real, period. Basically that's what they would say. You're a coward if you engaging in anything other than freeing yourself as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. That's the first principle. The second principle is that when you do, while you're freeing yourself, you're making sure that you leave here in better condition than you were when you first entered.
Powerful.
So those two things has to happen. You gotta make sure you free yourself and make sure you're freeing your mind, which is gonna be in tandem. They're gonna work together. You know what I'm saying? The third principle was only for a select few people. The third principle, only a select few people, not everybody, but some people are charged with bettering the conditions of the environment in which they're confined in. I'm saying some people are charged with that. So you got your political prisoners, you got your people who are going to be leaders and running the programs and all that stuff. They trying to change minds and better conditions than when in the inside. They trying to teach and though a lot of those folks got 225 years to do, triple
Most
life
of
sentences.
most
You
of
know what I'm saying? Most of them, those are the people that's running things, and it's ironic because these people are never coming home, but they've decided to give their knowledge and their brains away to those who are gonna go home. So in their minds, their legacy, they're gonna be
lives
free.
on.
It's
They
gonna
live
live
on.
on because that's the only thing they can have. That's the only thing. That's the only way they're gonna be able to be home and be free
Is
is
to
by
enlighten others, live
right.
through others.
Right. The only way I'm going to be free is through your mind. So I'm going to give you everything that I got so that when you go home, it's going to be as if I'm home too, you know? And that to me was a spiritual war that we was kind of like winning, man. Like it was really, really some great people in my circumference, in my environment that was helping me, become that while I was in Clinton. Then what happened was, one day I was reciting some poetry in the yard, and the folks were like, "Oh shit, yo, you're really good, you know. Let's hear some more. You should perform here when we come and do our banquets and stuff like that." I'm like, "Great, I'll definitely do that, you know." And then I moved. Then I got transferred to a facility, Eastern Correctional Facility, where they had a lot of those activities going on. You know, they had poetry going on, they had theater going on, they had Black History Month, African Hispanic Heritage Month. They had a whole bunch of activities going on. And when I got there, I got myself involved with all of them. I was just going to these joints, being a participant, and then the folks there, they they helped me become a leader in those programs. So now, all of a sudden, I got 5, 6, 7 years in prison, but now I'm running programs now. All right,
Nah,
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. So like those programs that I was a participant in, I'm now a leader in. So now all the programs that I was doing, like the theater programs, now I'm coordinating the productions. You know, the poetry readings and stuff like that. Now I'm coordinating and planning what poets are gonna come in. I'm working on a call out. I'm talking to people about the program. I'm letting people know, yo, come through. I'm going to I'm going to orientation, and all the people that's coming into the jail, I'm letting them know, yo, we got this, come through, put your name on the list. You know, we got theater, we got poetry, we got African History Month that's gonna come up in February. We're gonna have people coming in, and we had community volunteers coming into the prisons. So now I'm being social with these folks.
Mm-hmm.
Me now I'm running things with them, and I'm learning real life experience on how to run organizations, how to be a leader, you know, how people just relied on me and stuff like that, right? So now I get to a point where in Eastern Correctional Facility, I spent 9 years in that prison. And for about 7 of those years, I can honestly say that I impacted a lot of people on a
Mm-hmm.
positive way. You know, like I help people learn conflict resolution skills through Alternatives to Violence Project. I became an AVP facilitator where we talked about conflict resolution and just emotional intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being able to learn those things. Um, um, I was the coordinator for the Poetry Harvest Moon Collective, where the folks who were leaders in there, they had went to another facility, so it left me with having to work with the folks there. And I've hosted poets like Mary Baraka, Naomi Shea Nye, Bob Holman, like some really great, dope poets, man. Tara Betts, like so many dope poets. Lisa Jesse Peterson, like she was in the Slam movie. Like it was like I was just doing my thing. And then with theater, I was acting in those productions, learning techniques, learning about what it takes to put on a story, put on a production, what acting really means, and then also teaching others those things too. I'm teaching my brothers who was coming in and teaching them the lessons that I've had like in the past, just just basically each one teach one type philosophy, right? And just being a community person while I was inside. And then I got into college. I got into bar college. I got my associate's degree from them,
That's
and
powerful.
then I end up getting transferred to Fishkill Correctional Facility, in which they had the puppy program there, and they had Hudson Link and Nyack College. So I became a puppy raiser through the Puppies Behind Bars program, in which I actually had a dog in my cell, and like I'm training these dogs to be service dogs for wounded war veterans,
Mm.
and they were doing explosive detection canines in other facilities, but the program itself was doing both. So I was basically becoming a puppy raiser while I was getting my bachelor's degree. And at the time I got married, so I had met this young woman. I met a young woman on the internet. My sister put my ad on a on one of these websites, and I start pen paling a woman, and we started kicking it, and then next thing you know, we married. We had a baby, So
Yeah,
like while
because
I'm in
y'all
fish,
got conjugal visits up there.
yeah, we
Yeah,
could get.
yeah.
They call them family reunion program visits, So you could get a visit with your wife, or you could get a visit with your brother, your sisters, your mom. You got could spend a whole weekend together and stuff in this whole little trailer area, and y'all can barbecue food, but you got to stay out of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have no infractions, not one infraction. So like, I was already on that path, just like not, I didn't have that much disciplinary, issues and nothing like that. So yeah, man, like being in Fishkill, I was able to like become that puppy raiser, get into dogs, and then also get involved with the RTA, the Rehabilitation Through the Arts, which has a new movie out, Sing Sing the movie.
I just
Um,
seen
they,
that.
yeah, they was just nominated for some Oscars. They didn't win any Oscars, but they've been winning a lot of awards. And just to be nominated is amazing, man.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. Nominated. But I got involved with that program in Fishkill and did a show with them, and then from that, I went to well, before that, before I got to Fishkill, I got myself involved with this program called Exodus. And Exodus was a program inside that Reverend Edwin Muller ran. And he was the founder of it. He founded it in 1968, which is post Attica uprising. But he founded it in Green Haven. So now it's in Exodus, and I was a leader in that group as well, where the folks in that group was powerful men, man. Like these people, they came through with the craziest, most sophisticated ideas on how they was gonna get money, and this is all like legal stuff, like like how they were gonna, change their legacy, change the narrative of their lives, and not just be prisoners when they and it was just beautiful. We had like this thing called the contract where you put goals on there for each section of your life so that you can improve the quality of your life. And that's how you took control of your life, because you got dreams and you got goals.
Mm-hmm.
Your dreams will stay dreams if you ain't got goals.
If you ain't, especially if you're not putting no action towards making anything happen.
Right, right. And when you set a goal, you set concrete steps on what it's going to take to accomplish that goal. You set the time. From this point on and this point on, in the next 6 months, I'm gonna study hard. I'm gonna study at least 3 hours a day, and then at the end of it, I'm gonna have my degree. Right, like that's a goal. Like the dream is to have the degree, but like the things in between
Mm-hmm.
at Exodus, that's where I learned this is what it's gonna take, to become successful.
Mm-hmm.
To become successful. Like I can say I'm gonna do all of these things, but I ain't got nothing to show for, then I ain't gonna get that done. Dreams is gonna stay a dream. And so like brothers was on there going to college, going getting a master's degree. So I always was like, yo, I gotta go get my master's degree. I gotta be up there with them, they on it, So when I was in Fishkill, when I got my bachelor's degree, it was only right. I was like, yo, I'm applying for this master's degree because I gotta get that. And I end up getting into it, and which a lot of people, once you get your bachelor's degree, you gonna get in your master's. You might have to wait because it might be a wait long, but I didn't have to wait. I was like, yo, I called a few people. I was like, yo, I need to be in this cohort right now. I'm going to the board at this time. I need to go. So I called a few people and I sent my application in. Boom. I was in there. They moved me from Fishkill Correctional Facility to Sing Sing in 2019. So at this point, I got about 18, 17 years in, and I've already become, all of the things that I wanted to become, but I didn't even know. And what I did was I went to Sing Sing and I got my master's degree from the New York Theological Seminary. The pandemic hit while I was there
Mm.
in 2020, right? And then I had to prepare to go to the board from there. I end up also being a part of a production with RTA called 1776, which was a musical, which I really much I talk about that because that was the play that really taught me how to let loose for real. And it was crazy as was the last play, but like this is a play where I got to sing and dance. Like I've never been in a play
You
where I
got
got
to
to,
be free. Yeah.
yeah, I got to sing and dance and act. I got to do all these things. That play really taught me a lot of lessons about who I am and what I'm capable of doing.
Mm.
And like that, it was a beautiful, beautiful experience, especially since I've always dreamed of going. It's crazy, right? Like I always dreamed of going to Sing Sing.
Mm.
I mean, it sounds crazy because like who fucking dreams to go to a prison? But when you're in prison with a life bid and you only know what you know, your world is only confined to facilities and prisons. I dreamed of going to Sing Sing for two reasons. One, because the origin of RTA was in there, and two, the master's degree program was there. So I need to go get that master's degree, and I need to go be a part of that RTA program because I have a passion for acting and I have a passion for the arts. So I wanted to make sure that I touch RTA, you know. Um, and yo, I went to Sing Sing. I got there and I accomplished what I needed to accomplish, and I end up going to the parole board from Sing Sing.
Mm.
Now, the reason why I said in the beginning that I didn't know when I was on Rikers Island,
The Portrait of
I
Guru.
did not know what my mother was doing for me by writing me those love letters and having me write her poetry
Mm.
when I was 17. Because fast forward, when I got sentenced, I went up north for that week. I was placed in that strip cell. One of the first things I wrote was a poem.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a poem. And then for the rest of my bid, poetry really got me in the door to all those things that I was talking about, all in programs that I was involved in. Poetry is what really got me in the door. And then now I'm in Sing Sing, scared to death because I'm going to the parole board. And for what I understood, it was going to be on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
So I was afraid of the technology of it because I never experienced that. I never even, to me, that was some movie shit, Hollywood shit that I'm about to experience for the first time in the interview of my life.
Yeah, and
And the
you
very
want to be there face in
I
their
wanted to
face.
right. And in Fishkill Correctional Facility, they have a face-to-face board. You know, I think it's like one of two facilities in the whole state that they only have a face-to-face board. And I was in one of them. So I was good. I was like, yeah. But the pandemic hit, which stopped us from going back to the facilities that we came from.
Mm.
So I had to finish out my bid in Sing Sing. So now I'm before the parole board and I've created my portfolio, which was hell, by the way, because they took away all our computers and shit. So we couldn't really put a nice
You got to write this
portfolio like we
thing.
usually do. Luckily for me, my man Wilfredo Laracuente, my boy, we call him Punt. That's my boy, man. I just met him, man, and he will forever be my family. This dude looked at my portfolio and ask someone if they can talk, if he can talk to me about it. But they were like, yeah, you can talk. He's like, nah, but I want to know if I can really talk to him about it, like tell him the truth about this. And one of my bros gave him the green light to come and talk to me about it, like in that way. And he came up to me and was like the realest shit. He was like, yo, this shit right here is garbage. Like straight up, like this shit right here, what you about to put out is trash. Like, what are you doing? Well, I don't even understand why you putting this out from the caliber of person that you are. Like this right here is not it. And I was like, what? Let me see. I was like, oh man, you right, man. This shit is all fucking bullshit. I was doing my portfolio on a typewriter. So I was like, it was just shit that was everywhere. It wasn't organized right, nothing. So he helped me organize my portfolio correctly the way I wanted it. He was the only one with access to a computer in the whole jail. The
Respect.
whole jail. Because it was locked down because of the pandemic. Couldn't go nowhere. But he was allowed to go places and shit. So he hooked me up, man. He fucking hooked me up. And he was there for me. He gave me my portfolio. I submitted it to the parole board. I'm before the parole board on a screen. It's crazy because now everything is a screen, the Zoom, everything, or whatever. That my very first time experiencing this was before the parole board in an interview for my freedom after doing 20 years in prison, right? And the commissioner, Michael Corley, he asked me, he says, I see here you write poetry. I say, yeah. He said, let me hear something. You got a poem? And I was like, shocked. I was like, get the fuck out of here. Now, rewind a little bit. I ain't say this, but a few years back, there was a situation. I forget. I think it was a fish scale facility. I don't remember what facility it was, but my friend Patrick Stevens was me. We call him Kush. We was together, and there was a brother who went to the parole board who could sing and wanted to go home and sing. And he went before the parole board, and the parole board asked him, what you going to do when you go home? And he said, well, I want a career. I want a music career. I want to go home and sing. And they like, oh, you know how to sing? Let us hear you sing. And he sang. And they let him go. They let him go the next day.
Here's your opportunity.
Yeah. So at that moment, I told Patrick, and luckily I got a witness. I told Patrick, I was like, yo, Kush, if they ask me to recite a poem, I'm gonna rip that shit to pieces. They're gonna release me. after I'm telling you, this was years ago. So now I'm before the parole board, and exactly what I prayed for, exactly what I asked for is happening right now. He literally asked me, let me hear something. We want to hear a poem. And I was shocked. I wasn't prepared in the sense that I didn't have a poem written to give to them because I didn't even think that was going to happen.
Look,
you know what? God is great.
Mysterious ways.
God is powerful.
I promise.
Because it's no mystery to me, because before I went in the parole board, I saw this brother walking shackled into the parole board. He was coming from the box. And he was coming out, and I said a prayer. I prayed. I said, God, just give me the words. Give me the words that I can talk, that I can say to them. And they can understand who I am. And give them the heart. I was like, open their hearts so that they can receive who I am. I put that prayer out there. And God answered my prayer. God laughed. I say God laughed at me because I was up there reciting poetry that I wrote my first week in that strip cell.
I was going to ask you, did you do the one, do that one?
I recited Sense of Mind, the poem that I wrote when I was in the strip cell in that first week up north.
This is on the God. So I was going to tell you, did you know that poem? Could you recite it now? So I'm going to go ahead and stop now. Recite it.
You want me to recite that poem right now? All right, hold on. Let me drink some water. This poem is called Sense of Mind, but I've renamed it. So now it's called Sense of Mind, my freedom poem. When one of my senses backtrack, I fall in place. A field of minds produces. Hold on, let me start it over. When one of my senses backtrack, I fall in place. A field of minds creates those should-haves, confrontations, helps my lungs open wide. I never look at the I tried, I look at the I died, which is good, but never satisfactory. What could I claim my glory but claim the story of a sick mind's escape to serenity, but landed in iron and steel that keeps my legs bound at a limit? I can never be finished. Take that idea and hold it for 20 years. That feels like I could never be lived. Look at the field and wonder if I could ever grow like the corn, like I could fly through these words. But could I ever be on time when the sound of a blow of a horn sounds like pieces been torn and everybody's garments are worn? And do you really know when you've been born? Glimpse of a night, glimpse of an aim, an objective to title each lane, a glimpse of a way, a vision to stay, but a dog could be okay in its place and be off out of its way to chase a cat just to get that urge off his back. It's like that. So when you're at the peak of the mountain, you expect your words to stand still in motion, but they never do. You study each crack and each wrong or right, but you always lose. You know I knew. Little holes I can go through and show you where you first spoil you the idea of you being loyal to the pavement. I say that to understand what today is. I observe to complete the man in me so that I won't degrade his. What today is the best part, the star. Where is the scrolls landing? If what your pedagogy is ramming, you can't stand it, the truth. Because when I first heard it, I couldn't see it. Knowledge of self gave me my sense of mind. So why try to be insane when the last time that happened, the outcome was this cage? Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Look, I
At that beginning,
appreciate that.
I haven't recited it in a while.
You recite this poem. What happened? So you recite the poem.
Yeah. So I recited the poem, and I remember them going back into other questions about my case and my disciplinary history, and asking me questions about that. And then I went back to my cell, man. I couldn't believe it. I told everybody about it, but they tortured me, man, with the decision. They didn't give me a decision until a week later. Usually they give 12 days. It took them 12 days to get me my decision, but usually they give you the decision that Tuesday. So you'll go to the parole board Tuesday, you'll get your decision by the next following Tuesday. And I had to get my shit. I got my shit like Friday or something. Yeah. So like I got my decision. They told me I was going home. I went home December 2nd, 2020. And I went to the parole board October, was home December 2nd, 2020.
So before you go any further, what was the psychological part that was running through your mind when you actually received it? Because your whole story, it isn't a happenstance. God does everything for a reason. From you being able to, your mother being in there and writing poetry. To poetry, the Bible says your gift will make room for you and put you before great men. Couldn't make this up. But your gift of poetry that your mother gave you throughout your whole being was utilized, and you got to use it for your freedom.
Right.
So you sitting there when you received it, what's running through your mind?
The first thing that came to my mind was my daughter. That was the first thing that came to my mind, the first face that came in my mind. But then the next thing, I was just so happy. I've never been that happy before, where like tears coming down my eyes and I can't stop it, and I'm like, I just couldn't stop crying. And I was just I've never been that happy before. I feel it a little bit now. My eyes welling a little bit now.
Mine is too. So
and it's like, and it's like, I just didn't, because I started to think. I even told Kush, because Kush was right across from me. I was telling him, I was like, "Hey, man, I thought this shit would never happen. I didn't think this would ever happen, man. Like never. I didn't there was some times in my life where I thought that I would die in prison, that I won't ever get this opportunity. So to be able to have that piece of paper that says open date December 2nd, 2020, I was like, man, I gotta get to this date now. I gotta stay out the yard. I'm not going to the yard. I'm not going out myself. I'm not going to chow. I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying here. I need to finish off these days, man. I have there was the other part of me that was talking about that I was thinking about dying because like I knew a few of my friends who actually died
Mhm.
after they made the board and never got a chance to go home. One of my bros caught a heart attack on a basketball court, and this is like right after he made the board. He had like a month or something like that to go home. You know, after spending 20 something years in prison, he ended up getting a heart attack on a basketball court. Another person I know of didn't make it. Cancer, just didn't make it out. So like I was thinking thoughts like that, but like in a sense of like being appreciative of my health, of like just being able to like just thankful, man. I was just fucking thankful, just so thankful. I never been that thankful, you know, because I was just, you know, I was just like working on myself all this time, but there were so many people that were responsible for making sure that I kept myself right, right. So I felt like I owed them. It was so many things that was popping in my head, but you know, I just couldn't wait to get up out the door.
So
I couldn't wait.
now you're out, and share with the people what you do now, the reason why you do it.
Mhm.
Expound over the last past technically almost 5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Expound on it.
Yeah, man. So upon coming home, things didn't work out between me and my ex-wife and stuff like that, but we remain, you know, close and stuff like that with uh, uh you know co-parenting and stuff like that. So being a father, being an active father is very important to me. So that's something that I immediately want to say that's something that I got into immediately, more so than anything. Um, um, but you know, when I came back to New York, because I paroled to San Antonio, Texas, and then came back to New York, I became, you know, a community activist, poet, artist in the community now, right? Um, I started working with gang involved youth at cases. I'm working with them, teaching them how to keep a job, teaching them how to, you know, well, not really teaching them, but encouraging them, you
Mm-hmm.
know, facilitating a safe space for them to get up early and come to work, you know, and teach, basically showing them the ropes on what it takes to keep a job, you know, be a responsible adult. And then this wonderful opportunity popped up with the Children's Defense Fund, in which they was launching a direct cash transfer pilot program, guaranteed income thing for former foster care youth. And that's something that I jumped on and basically told them, listen, y'all got to hire me because I'm the best person for this job. You know, literally, I told them that, like, I am the birth. In my cover letter, I was like, I am your best candidate.
And you
There,
are.
there might be someone better. I told them there might be someone better than me, but if there is, I would like to learn from that person. I was like, I would like to learn from y'all because I, you know, the working with former foster care youth has been something that I've been dreaming about. All my senior projects for my schooling and my when I got my bachelor's inside and my master's degree, they were all about improving the foster care system, improving, preventing child abuse, you know, bringing more care and animal based care to the foster care system.
Mm.
Like that was like my whole dream, you know. So when this job arose, I was like, yeah, I want this, you know, I want this job, and I got it. You know, I got the job as the project manager, and I was managing the cash payments of $1,000 a month to 100 former foster care youth through a participatory action research design project called Youth Empower Transforming Care, in which I helped lead that and design and everything, you know. But then while I'm doing that, I'm also being charged to be the activist, to be a panelist on big forums and at the White House, at the New York Judicial Institute. I'm going to these places to speak to judges, to speak to family court judges, to talk about censoring the voices of young people when they get in trouble. Trying to uplift the Youth Justice and Opportunities Act bill to try to expand YO, the Right to Remain Silent Act bill, which is also known as the Children's Early Right to Counsel, which is something that we Children's Early Access to Counsel is a bill that ends police interrogation of children without a lawyer. We got the exonerated five who were interrogated by police and admitted to some shit that they didn't even do. And that's what kids do all the time. And so what we want better protections. We want youth to have more opportunities and safe spaces to make mistakes, because youth are going to make mistakes. That's what those years is for. That's what those initial years, them teenage years, is for them to mess up. It's for them to screw shit up, to try shit and fuck up all the time. That's what they're gonna do. What we need to do as adults is make sure that they are safe. They can do these things in a safe way, so that not to be menaces and stuff like that, but to offer community-based services that allow them to get their shit off.
And they need to hear stories such as yours.
Right.
They need to be able to see people who have went through, came out of, but guess what? Can tell them, look, I ain't telling you what not to do. But what I am going to tell you is, guess what? I went through it so you don't have to go through it. Yes. Or the best way I can put it, you're the butterfly, they're the caterpillar. But you got a caterpillar story that can help this caterpillar navigate into his butterfly story different.
Right. Absolutely, man. So yeah, man. So being a servant leader in my community, was amazing. It's like, it was just beautiful for me. But I was also traversing between being an artist and a community organizer, an activist. We sunsetted that program, that direct cash transfer program, and now we're trying to do a guaranteed income bill, move from this pilot to policy space. I'm also involved with a campaign to end congregate settings, basically abolish group homes, and stuff like that. We don't need them. They have the worst possible outcomes, foster care, the child welfare system. Our children who leave the foster care system have worse cases of PTSD than war veterans. Kids are coming out of these institutions very much more harmed than they were when they first entered. And it's disgusting that we still use these platforms. So I'm involved with community to end these things. So I use my lived experience in both the child welfare and youth justice systems to center the voices of young people, leveraging my past trauma within these systems to advocate and promote housing and economic mobility, independence, and self-determination for system-involved youth. For me, I that's my passion. That's my purpose.
I can feel
that's something that I need to do, because I work in that capacity, but I also, like you said, I work in a capacity of mentorship. People rely upon me as a subject matter expert on panels across the country. That includes the New York State Capitol in Albany, Howard University, Syracuse University, the Saratoga Springs Family Court, Pace University, Columbia University Psychiatric Institute, the New York Judicial Institute, and the White House. So my voice is relied upon them, but more importantly, my voice is relied upon young people in my community. And people they need to hear from me. I need to hear from them. I need to speak to them. So that's something that I work as. But then the other part, in that capacity, I also sit on the District Attorney of New York City's Reentry Council Board. So I'm basically a part of a group of men and women who come together once every month to talk about how are we receiving our community members returning back from time in prison.
That's
Um,
powerful.
um, and we're working on with the district attorney with some powerful people to try to work on doing some wraparound services for them. So I'm involved with that. But then my other life as an artist, I'm a spoken word artist and an actor. I performed at the Bushwick Star Theater as Salomon and Quince. I've performed as Tony in Chalk at the Shed in New York City. I performed as Knowledge and When This Is Over for the Workshop Theater. I was Jose the Wise Man in Private Party at the Public Theater. So like I've been in a few, plays and stuff like that out here. The most recent play that I was just in was called I Am Yo Soy, a Museum de Memorias, which I played Theo Irvin, Grandpa Abuelito, and Dad. And I'll be reviving my role as Salomon and Quince, produced by the One Whale's Tail Theater Company. But then, like, and like you see how when I was in prison, I became participants of these things and then became leaders. Same shit out here, man. Like I come out here and it's like I become a part of the theater company and now I'm a leader in it. So for the One Whale's Tail Theater Company, I helped co-create this program called I Wish I Knew How, which is a creative arts and healing workshop series created with formerly incarcerated individuals. And then I'm also a teaching artist for the Rehabilitation Through the Arts program. So now I'm one of the people that's coming into the prisons to help people learn and shit. Like the volunteers did that for me. So like I helped with the Compañía de Columbari. I was a part of this poetry event called Wow, Walt Whitman on Walls, and then from that became a correctional facilities coordinator that helps their company bring in their plays and programs and productions in the prisons. And
Mm.
right now we're going into Connick Correctional Facility, a woman's medium secure prison in Westchester County. So yeah, man, like I'm into the arts. I'm a poet. I'm an artist. I'm also a writer. I'm an author. I've published articles on foster care system. I published an article called "When Help Hurts: Foster Care versus My Mom," which is an article about how the foster care system really, beat up my mom's family, and where to the point where me and my siblings, I have 9 siblings, and we've never been in the same room at the same time. We've never shared a meal together. We've never been in those kind of spaces, and it's because of the child welfare system and not taking just basically beating up my mom and leaving her for dead. My mom actually passed away in 2015 when I was incarcerated, and I saw her on her deathbed while I was in shackles. And I was able to talk to her and forgive her and for everything and tell her thank you. And that's something that was very important to me. So the last thing that I would say is that I became the 2024 poet in residence for the Civil Rights Corps last year. And through that program, I was able to create poetry to uplift my mom, who was impacted by the child welfare system in such a negative way. So as a result of that work, I created a collection of poetry, which is a book that I just put out. It's on Amazon right now. It's called Till Ink Meets Paper: Poems for Gwendolina, My Mommy. And it's a book of poems. It's 16 poems in the book. Those 16 poems represent the 16 years, me being 16 years old, being incarcerated. And then it costs $20.02 for you to purchase it on Amazon. If I got it physically, you just give me $20. But if it's on Amazon, you buy it for $20.02 to represent the year in which me and my mom rekindled our relationship. And those 16 poems are in there basically just talking about how important my mom is to me, how they took me away from her, but at the same time, she's my mom, and she's always going to be my mother, and she always was qualified to be my mother. It's that these systems, these races, systemic races, colonial ways of thinking that these systems have, really said to society that she wasn't fit, when in reality she was fit. She nurtured love and poetry within me at a time that I most needed it, in which, me and my mom, we were both incarcerated on Rikers Island, but we was free in our minds, and
Mm-hmm.
she created a power that I have within me right now, and it's because of her. My ability to be able to be a poet and be a community activist and be an artist and be a actor and all of these things is as a result of her showing that she believed in me at a time when I didn't even know how to believe in myself.
She
So
started adding love onto you. The
right,
love that she
yes,
the love that she expressed through her
yes,
poetry. And then her just asking you to write her back
right,
in the
right,
same language that she spoke to you,
right.
messed around and activated what God already had within you. And right now, today, God is using you through what was activated then because you needed it.
Mhm.
You hadn't felt it till then, but then after you got it, look at you now, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that.
Look, I I highlight people like this for a reason.
Mhm.
People need to hear these stories. They need to see the success that we become and who you have become in spite of the obstacle and the environment that you was put in. I'm grateful to God that yes, you went. Only because guess what? It's the people that the relationships that help build you,
Mhm.
and the people that you help build in the midst of it has you doing the powerful work that you're doing today.
Yeah, man, I
So
appreciate it.
look, keep being great, man. If don't nobody else tell you, you are an amazing being.
Thank you.
I'm grateful that God allowed me to just see a clip of you. I don't even know how I got the clip. I promise you, it came through Instagram, and I seen it, and I was like, "Yo, let me." One, I figured out how to get in touch with people. I get to you after I get off here, and what God allowed me to do was have a moment with you, man. And I thank you for the moment.
I appreciate that, man. I
Look,
appreciate that. I seen the name of your stuff, and I was like, yeah, of course, man. I could do something like that. This sounds positive. It wasn't like no scam or nothing like that. Usually you get a DM.
look.
Now this is real.
God ain't gonna punish me for doing nothing foolish. So before you leave, I do need you to do something. Give me a
Mhm.
word of wisdom
Okay.
before you go, something powerful, whether it's for somebody who just started their journey, whether somebody who been to prison, whether somebody who never been but need the inspiration. Give me a word of wisdom, and then let them know where they can find your book as well.
Okay. Great. I think the word of wisdom that I would give anyone who's like probably starting a bid right now, or even if you're not in a bid, maybe you feel stuck where you at, you know, maybe you feel just stuck because a person in prison is stuck, right? So you can be living out here in free society and still be stuck, still be living in a cell. You still locked up mentally, you know.
Mhm.
Um, if you locked up mentally or if you locked up physically, my word of wisdom to you would be to try to free yourself as quickly as possible. Like
Mhm.
that, try to live by that as a philosophical standpoint. Like not just saying it, recite it in your head. And then ask yourself, what does it mean for you to be free? For some people, it means being able to go outside and let the grass feel up on their toes and stuff like that, and have a nice cup of coffee and look at the sun come up and stuff like that. For some people, that's what freedom looks like that for them. For others, it doesn't look like that. Others, it look like work. It look like grinding. It look like, doing those things. So whatever that may be, make sure that you about that, from a positive way. Make sure that you're life giving, that you're breathing life into yourself, because sometimes no one is going to come to do that for you. You know, you're gonna have people encouraging you like me, like Carlos and like other folks and stuff like that. But eventually you're gonna have to do that for yourself. So that's why I say free yourself as quickly as possible as the first principle of you feeling stuck or confined. And then try to be better, try to be in those, try to leave there in better condition than you were when you first entered or first started feeling this feeling of being stuck. You know, have emotional intelligence, you know, understand that it's all right to be fucked up and feel sad, and it's all right to feel embarrassed, but just name it. You know, be real about it. Just name the thing. You know, don't say that. You know, don't say I feel some kind of way. That's bullshit. I feel some kind of way. Of course you feel so. Everybody feeling some kind of way. But people just say that because they lazy. They don't want to do work within themselves, man. You know, so I would like be true to yourself by telling the truth to yourself. If somebody embarrasses you and you feel embarrassed, then you feel embarrassed. Say that. You know, don't be angry because anger is going to put you in a position where you don't want to be. You know, you may feel after you feel embarrassed, you might feel compelled to talk to somebody and let them know why you feel embarrassed. If you feel sad, then you might feel compelled to shed some tears, to say some things about your sadness so that you can release that, you know. And understand that you're gonna have to release it. We live in a trauma-informed society, man. We going through trauma every single day. So get some rest too. You know, get some rest. You know, do some meditation. Focus on yourself. Love on yourself. Take yourself out on a date. Like one of the things that I do as a person who's never had a family, I never had a mom or dad come take care of me when I was a kid. You know, my mom was there for me on Rikers Island. She was there for me at a time when I needed her, but she never took me to the park. You know, she never took me to a museum and shit like that. You know, I need somebody to take little Jose to the museum still. So like your inner child still needs loving. That person still needs loving, still needs attention, still is gonna make mistakes sometimes, you know, and you need to be loving to that person. You know, that person is real, and that person might have a strong burning desire to go apple picking, to go pumpkin picking, to go to a movie, to go to a carnival, something, right? Then listen to that little kid and take yourself out somewhere. You know, go somewhere nice where you're gonna be able to be a kid again and be joyous. You know, so like that's the word of wisdom I would leave with people, man. Just be true to yourself, free yourself as quickly as possible, be better than when you were when you before, and love on your inner child, love on that person because that inner child still exists. You know, and you can find my book Till Ink Meets Paper on Amazon. If you go on Amazon, you can just basically put my name, Jose Angel Perez, and it'll pop up. Or you can put Till, which is apostrophe Till, Till Ink Meets Paper, Poems for Gwendolina, my mommy. Till Ink Meets Paper, that phrase is how my mother signed all her letters when she wrote me. So she wrote me each letter that she wrote. At the end of that letter, she'll put Till Ink Meets Paper, love mommy. So I wanted to basically tell the world and tell the child welfare system, especially, Till Ink Meets Paper. These poems are for Gwendolina, my mommy, because you said that she wasn't qualified, but she's my mommy. So I hope that you guys can go and enjoy it and read it and share it with others. And yeah, and you can contact me on Instagram if you want to talk about it, actually. J.A._Perez with two Z's. Or
Mr.
Healing
Perez,
Poetry or Till Ignis Paper.
Mr. Perez, it's been more than an honor. For y'all who are watching, go purchase that book. So my name is Carlos Walker. This is Forward Progress, and this is Jose Angel Perez. Blessings.